Hello, you are listening to the Frugal Crafter podcast. I'm Lindsay Weirich, and today I have Sarah Burns back on the show. She is a renowned landscape painter living in Scotland with a thriving YouTube channel and website focusing on plein air painting. And I'm thrilled to have her back on the podcast. Sarah, how are you doing today?
Hello, good to see you again. I'm very excited to be back, especially talking about plein air. As you know, plein air April is about to start, and I am gearing up for a very busy month.
Oh, I
uh,
can only
and I can
imagine.
geek out about supplies forever. So, yeah, this is going to be fun.
Fantastic. I've enjoyed seeing your plein air work in the past, and I was curious to know more about this challenge. Can you explain what Plain April or Plein Air April is to our viewers?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of think of it that way as plein air April. So it's art challenge, I guess, that a group of artists in California started. I think they're animators, film in the film industry, and they just wanted like a community, a group to go out and paint with. So they started this little group called Warrior Painters. And I think by now they also teach like classes and things, but they started this group challenge where they would go outside every day during April and paint from life. Or I guess some people also do still life in their house or look out your window, whatever you can do, just to build that habit of daily painting, observational painting, and in particular, painting outside from life to observe light and color in the landscape or urban, wherever you are. And I guess it caught on. I don't know how I even remember how I first saw it, but some probably Instagram or something. And it's a hashtag, Plein April. And ever since I first started painting, I've been loving painting outside, even though it is a massive challenge. And when I saw that hashtag pop up, I was like, this is perfect. And now it's my one big art challenge that I follow every year, pretty much the only one. I sometimes dabble with Inktober, but not much. And it just suits me really well because between April and basically October, whenever it snows, I paint outside as often as possible. So this like
That's
kickstarts my year
awesome.
for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. You're the one that I heard about Plain April from, and for the last couple of years, I'm like, I've got to do that. That is so cool. And just seeing like when you see them all come together, and you've got this collection of paintings together, it's
Yeah.
like so satisfying. And you did a
Yeah.
collage on your Instagram a couple of years ago, and it was like a square, and then you had all these circles in the square with
Mm.
the little
Oh
landscapes in
yeah.
it, and I was like, oh, that looks
Yeah.
so
I
good.
have that sketchbook actually. These circles paintings.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, so it was
yes. I
like
love
several
that.
pages, and at the end, it was fun to like put them all together. And then I made stickers of some of them, I think. But it
What a
was,
great
I
idea.
don't know, I just popped my tape down and like drew a circle, and then was like, I'm gonna paint in circles this month. It was so just like a random thought I had, and
Yep.
it ended up being really fun. Just to change it up a little bit because usually I just paint in like squares or rectangles.
Mhm.
But yeah, then I started sharing that, and a lot of people were commenting and saying they want to do it next year. So I started each year like putting a plan out there, like a guide or like a theme or something, even prompts sometimes to encourage other people to join in. But I also think people should just do their own thing. If they want to do an art challenge, like make it work for you and your art goals. I think that's really important and also helps to stay motivated rather than follow someone else's goals, you know?
Mhm. Well, I do know you have a plan this year because I saw that you posted a video on it. Could you explain a little bit about
Mm.
how you're going to approach the challenge this year? Because it's so hard to like stick to a month of doing something every day, even working in art where you're painting every day
I
anyway.
know.
It's still a challenge to do it every
Yeah.
day. So I think
Yeah.
people would love to hear how you're going to approach it.
Yes, I have a guide. I'm calling it a guide. It's like very flexible. Each week we focus on something different, and within that there's a ton of flexibility. So you could just use it as loose inspiration, or like I posted a full list, full explanation on my Fearless Brush blog, and within each week it's like broken down into little pieces, and I even offered some extra ideas if you don't want to follow exactly what I'm doing. But you know, start with the first week chasing joy, chasing fun, and playing, and kind of work to associate or build a habit, associate work with fun, and then hopefully that'll help you continue it daily. And then the second week you start to find a focus, and then the third week and fourth week there's like more prompts and like more specific things. And overall the goal is just to like build that daily habit and also work towards a specific goal. So you can like say, maybe one of my goals is actually to get better at painting flowers and observing color in flowers, because I find that really challenging from life. So that's one of my week focuses. And just, yeah, find, you kind of have to know yourself and know yourself as an artist and pick something that will get you to your goal.
Do you have something that you go to if you're just not feeling it that day? You're like, oh, you've hit like week number two or week number three, and you're like, I'm just done. Do you have like some thing you can just you can knock it out of the park, or
Yeah.
you can just it can get you started?
Yeah. And well, that's one of the things when you say knock it out of the park, like I really try to remove pressure to do anything amazing. Like nothing, I'm not selling anything I make from this. I'm not like, it's just to learn from. So removing that pressure makes a big difference, I think, and makes it more fun and exciting. And it's just about like I chase my curiosity when I approach it in that way, and it keeps me motivated. And that said, I do paint trees and rocks a lot as like my comfort subject. I
Mhm.
love the complexity. Even, you know, rocks can be very simple, but they can, I think I
I
said
love
this
rocks.
exact same thing last podcast. They can be so complex, and colors and everything. Trees, obviously, there's a million types of trees and different ways of painting them. So that's kind of my thing I fall back on. And I really want to push myself past that this year, but still from a place of not, you know, putting way too much pressure on myself to create masterpieces. And in the past year or two, I also recorded almost every day, which was a huge added challenge. So this year, I'm removing a bit of that pressure, and I'm going to focus more on making like a week long vlog of the experience and then sharing that, you know, at the end of each week. And hopefully that keeps allows me to keep more of my mental focus on the actual goal at hand. And well, we'll
Mhm.
see. I say that I might end up recording more because it's just like that's a habit for me.
Right, right. And I bet seeing that at the end of the week will be less intimidating for people and keep them inspired if they're painting along. To see
Yeah.
that kind of package at the end of the week where it's like, oh, look at all those things. It's like, okay, I'm raring to go next week and do a bunch more. Are you
Mhm.
going to work in the same sketchbook all month, or do you skip around to different books?
Um, I do like to do that. That's like taking away any option for different things I can use. Like basically limiting my choices leads to less choice paralysis. So if I make a
Hmm.
decision ahead of time, like this is the sketchbook I'm using, this is this paint, whatever, I think that helps me a lot. And especially when it's like a daily thing, maybe after 10 days, I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay. If I don't have to choose anything except the spot I'm going to sit and paint, it helps so much. But I also love variety, so I
Hmm.
I have like stacks of sketchbooks everywhere and different paints. And maybe if one of those days I do want to choose something else, I will. But I do want to. I have a goal, specific goal, to get better at painting a certain way. So with my dried gouache palette in my toned paper sketchbook is kind of where I'm leaning. And
Hmm.
if one day I have like no time or energy, I'll even just do like an ink sketch too. So
Hmm.
I gotta have some flexibility in that.
Yeah. Do you keep any watercolors in your dry gouache palette, or is it just straight gouache?
It's just gouache in that one. I brought a couple, like I use portable painters a lot, so I always have a
Mhm.
watercolor and a gouache one, and I can just grab either. I can put both in my bag as well. But it's one or the other in those particular palettes. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I get confused, and I'm always changing out the colors within each one. And I think if I mix them,
Yep.
I would just like lose track of what's what. And probably especially on toned paper, watercolor doesn't show up as much, so you want
Hmm.
that opacity, you want to rely on that. So I keep it kind of easy, keep it organized. It says gouache. The other one says watercolor.
Oh, good idea. So do you bring a separate sketchbook if you're going to be using watercolor that day, or do you just start it with watercolor and then add gouache over on top in the tone book?
Yeah, I use a different one for watercolor. I like 100% cotton sketchbooks as often as I can use them. I just am able to do the techniques I like to do on them a little easier. And I can use gouache on those as well, but I can't really use watercolor on my toned paper sketchbook. It's not cotton, and it's slick kind of, and gouache and ink and other things work beautifully on it, but I never liked watercolor on it. So, but the thing is, like my watercolor sketchbooks are so tiny and thin, like lightweight. Like I can have these both in the bag really easily, and both palettes. But again, I want to reduce that choice paralysis that I go
Yeah.
through a lot. I get out there and I see this view and I'm like, which one do I choose? And then I get like start overthinking everything. So I try to stick with one or the other on that particular day. I don't know if that's something you go through as well, because you have a
Well,
lot
for
of
the first
supplies.
time, yeah. For the first time this year for World Watercolor Month, I said I'm gonna start a new sketchbook, but I'm gonna stay in that sketchbook all month. And I did a 9 by 12, so I did section off some of the pages and do smaller sketches someday if I just didn't have the time or the ambition to do a really big sketch. But then I had the full page if I wanted to, and it was really nice at the end of the month to flip through and see all those completed sketchbooks done.
Yeah.
But like for Inktober, because I love to try different things. I don't want to use markers every day or pen and ink every day. I tend to have 4 or 5 sketchbooks going for Inktober, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit chaotic, but for whatever
Yeah.
reason, maybe because I'm inside more in the fall, it's not a big deal just to grab a different sketchbook off the shelf.
Yeah.
But in the summer, I'm more likely to be on the go with this one sketchbook, so it's just better to have it just sticking to one, I guess.
Yeah, I totally. And I do agree that when you flip through a sketchbook and you see a whole project, it's so rewarding in a way. I love
Hmm.
that. And I do miss that sometimes because I have so many different sketchbooks going at once. But I don't know, I just get in a mood where I'm like, this paper and this material go perfectly together, and that's what I want to
Hmm.
do. So,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
you're a fellow sketchbook floozy, I hear.
Gosh, yeah, I brought down like all of my favorites right now. I'm like, I shouldn't show all of these, but because I know a lot
Oh,
of
you're
people
in
go
good
through that.
company.
Like, yeah, a lot of people go through that. I think at one point I had like 13 started at the same time, and they were all different, different
Yep.
papers. I had a reason. I have my reasons.
Hmm. Oh, you're not going to get any argument here. I actually pulled out all my sketchbooks that I had started, and it was in the dozens. I think I had 40 sketchbooks that had been started, and then I put away anything that was new, and I'm like, I'm gonna finish these up, and I just took the ones that had the fewest amount of pages left and just kind of started picking away at those to just see
Hmm.
an end to some of them, because with watercolor paper, the paper can go bad after a while. And I just found a
Mm.
block of paper where the paper had gone bad, the sizing had
Oh
gone bad, and it
no.
was a bummer because I'd already done my drawing on it. It's like, well, I guess I'll find a different medium
Oh
to work on that because, it's fine for gouache or for other things
yeah,
that don't need that
yeah.
sizing.
Oh
The
man.
tone book that you have, what is that tone book? The thick
Oh,
one that
that's
you use.
these. Yeah, the Stillman and Byrne Nova beige. And they have a
Oh.
gray one, I think, or maybe a black one. I can't remember. But this is the beige one. And they have a couple different sizes. I also have the spiral version, which is like an 8 by 10. It's a nice size
Hmm.
for outside. It's a little more portable, but it's also slightly heavier, actually. And I like that if it's really windy. I use a
Hmm.
bigger one or a heavier one when it's really windy. So there's less chance of it flying away, because that has actually happened to me. My palette and my
Oh.
sketchbook has flown off of a cliff, which sucked a lot.
Oh,
So
oh no,
I
did you
learned
get
my
it?
lesson.
Did you,
No.
could you find it? Oh
No, it was
no.
luckily though, it was one of the really, I mean, I hate to think about this falling into the ocean or something, but it was a really
Yeah.
thin, like cheap one that can fit in your pocket almost, with very little
Hmm.
watercolor in it. But it just like sailed away. And then a sketchbook that was
Oh,
a little bit smaller and lighter than this paper one has also flown away. So I learned my lesson.
well, at least it's paper, not plastic, and hopefully it just biodegraded somewhere and
Or
gone
some
back
other
to the
artist
earth.
found it.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh, wouldn't that be
they
a
get to
treat?
use it. I know.
That would be
I
funny.
mean, the sketchbook probably disintegrated and is part of the
Mhm.
earth now, but this palette could easily be used again.
Yeah, definitely.
The
How
little
thick is the
metal ones
paper
are
in
also
that?
good for that.
What's that?
Um, oh, I was just saying the little metal palettes are also a really good option, because those are definitely not going to fly away. I always
Hmm.
tape the cover, the packaging
Oh,
onto my sketchbook because I always
smart.
forget. But it's
Hmm.
150 GSM, so it's pretty
Okay, so
good.
it's
It's
probably
thick.
around 75 pound weight or so.
Oh, I don't know. um, Yeah, I don't
Probably
know,
about a
but
mixed media
it
paper.
feels thick, like you can't see through it, and
Yeah,
it's got
nice.
a nice weight
It
to
doesn't
it.
buckle.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I mean, maybe if you use a lot of water, but I don't use a ton of
Hmm.
water with these particular sketches. They're kind of small, so it
Nice.
works really well for that. I get
Nice.
pretty
I
much every
wish.
time I post on Instagram or YouTube with that, I get a lot of questions asking which one it is. I think the color is very appealing, and especially gouache
Hmm.
like pops off of it, and ink as well. So yeah. But I guess you could use like any kind of craft paper sketchbook as long as the
Hmm.
paper's thick enough.
Yeah, I like the Strathmore tone tan mixed media paper. Like the color of it is
Mm.
just so ideal, but they don't make it in a book. It's just tearaway sheets like a pad, and they have
Oh,
a
right.
sketchbook that's that color, but it's thin paper. So you're
Mm.
kind of limited as to it doesn't really take the water too well. It's just too thin for that. So I thought about binding some of the mixed media paper into my own sketchbook, but if there's one already made that you can purchase, it'd probably um, be a better option. It'd probably be
Yeah.
cheaper because, it would be
Yeah.
already
I always
done.
say, oh, I'm going to make my own sketchbook, and I have the materials to do it, and I still haven't done it. I just have too many in that I can start already. They're just sitting there on the shelf waiting for me. So someday I will, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's very addicting when you start making sketchbooks. It's another whole hobby, another whole art form that's going
Mm.
to take your time, and it's fun. It's
Yeah.
like I've given away sketchbooks for Christmas presents because I got into a little groove where I was like, oh, this is so fun and so relaxing to do the Coptic stitch
Yeah.
binding. And I made
Yeah.
myself one for this summer. I used a really rough handmade watercolor paper, and then I used a rough commercial made watercolor paper. So like that's going to be
Mm,
great for just
cool.
going outside and
Yeah.
watercoloring because you got some of the textures right on the paper anyway, and just it will add a little interest. And
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Not that I
You
need
can
another
like
sketchbook because I
customize
have
it
so many going.
exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
That's why I'm holding off for now. Eventually I'll get there, and
yeah.
then I'll just never stop. I'll probably make so many sketchbooks I won't be able to use them just because it sounds fun.
You'll have to open an Etsy shop just to sell your sketchbooks or sell them on your
Uh,
website.
I'm done with. I sell some things on my shop, but I am kind of over like physical sales right now. Oh,
Hmm.
hello, kitten.
Oh, I get
One of
that.
my
Oh,
cats
yes, you
just
got a
came
new kitty
home.
cat.
Well, I do
Is
have
it
a
the new one
kitten,
or the?
yes. No, this one's
Uh,
my other one, Floki. I do
aw.
share my cats in my videos a lot, so it's funny people are always asking about them by name. But the
Mm-hmm.
new kitten is 4 feet that way in the window sleeping soundly, and I'm very grateful because
Aw.
otherwise it's a madhouse in here.
Yep. Yep. It's so funny how if you bring a pet into a YouTube video, then people will start asking after the pet, how's the
Yeah.
pet doing? Or can we see your pet? And
Yeah.
you every once in a while I have to make a point to bring one of the animals in just to say hello.
Yeah.
Um, I love hearing about your outdoor painting setup. In fact, you have the Etcher Slate Mini, and I have the original Etcher Slate, and I never could really get comfortable with it. So after watching your video, it gave me a lot of good advice on
Mm.
how I might get a little more use of that. But could you describe
Mm.
some of your favorite plein air setups and tools to
Yeah.
maybe inspire some people to on what they could use when they're out painting?
Hmm. Yeah, so I did bring that to show. This is the
Hmm.
bag. I like it because it's kind
Yep.
of skinnier, and when you don't pack it full of things, it's like really, really light. If you do pack it full of things, it can feel very heavy, but it has a tripod mount on the underside, and it
Hmm.
opens up so all your supplies are on one side, and then you have this like rigid platform which is covered in I think felt type material, and it comes
Hmm.
with lots of Velcro sticky things and like elastic bands and like all these ways you can customize it. But I took them all off because I pretty much just use this as a platform. I
Hmm.
do have some on one of my palettes. I have a like Velcro sticky thing that sticks to it so it won't fly away. I also have a couple of these, and some of the bottoms I have Velcro so I can stick those on
Oh, nice.
because I always spill my water. I even used one of my like little rubber, the airtight palettes that a lot of people use with gouache. I had that
Mhm.
velcroed to it. So anyway, that's a really convenient side of it, as opposed to like
Yeah,
a
that's a
pochade
great
box,
idea.
which you kind of have to like set everything inside. So I feel like this is a little more customizable, which I like because I'm always changing what I'm using. And it's not like I don't have to fit within a box basically. And if my sketchbook is slightly bigger, it can like overlap the side just slightly if I need it to. And yeah. So I usually set this up on a tripod and then I put my supplies out on it. If it's really windy, it's not always possible. So I'll like sometimes put it on my lap. But it also has the way you can configure the straps. You can actually like wrap it around yourself and stand while you sketch and do stuff hands free, which I've done now and then, especially if I'm hiking in like a forest and everything is wet and I don't want to sit down. I'll just do like a 5 or 10 minute sketch standing up, which I love. And the only thing with that is like after a while, your neck kind of gets annoyed because you're staring down like that.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much my favorite setup now. Otherwise, I am just using stuff on my lap or like leaning on something outside, like setting it, just folding it, putting it on my lap and painting like that. All different types of sketchbooks, whatever medium I'm going with that day is what makes me choose my sketchbook paper. And I usually have either a bum bag or a fanny pack, as they call it. And that is full of, like, I have a small, like a pouch water bottle. I forgot what they're called. You know what I mean? Like hikers use them.
Yeah, the flexible
silicone
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one of those because it squishes down small in there so I can fill my water or whatever, drink. And I also have a couple small-ish bags like this, all different sizes. And these fit like paper towels and my smaller palettes if I have that, and water brushes or pencils, pens, whatever. I also really like lots of different sizes of those travel brushes. So those, basically putting it all in here and then into whatever bag I'm using I need that because otherwise I lose things so easily. I have lost a lot of things over the years. Another fun little gadget I picked up because Scotland is so humid all the time and it takes forever for my paper to dry, my paint to dry. So this is actually a little like portable heat gun. It doesn't have a flame that shoots out. It's like kind of protected in there, but it does get really hot. So you have to like be really careful. But it just, you just press it and you fill it up with, forgot what the stuff is called, but lighter fluid kind of stuff, and press it down, hold it, and I put it like this far away from my paper, but like really fast, and just kind of speed it up a little bit, and that helps a lot, especially during the colder months, because if it's colder, it takes even longer to dry. I think you can get bigger ones like that would take a lot less time to dry your paper. This one takes forever, but it's still faster than waiting for it to dry naturally. And that is sometimes the difference between 1 or 2 layers of paint. So I was like, it's worth it. And little things like water bottle, spray bottles and little bits and bobs. And then of course the palette, most of this can fit in the etcher bag, flattened, like if I squeeze it all in. But I like having a side bag, a shoulder bag, or like a bum bag is even better. So I can just like quickly grab things out of that and keep things organized. So I have like these, everyone has these, I think, those metal ones. I usually keep like separate palettes in separate things. Like this is my granulating palette. So if I really want to use a lot of texture, I'll grab this one. And I always tape a quick cheat sheet to them because I will forget what they look like. And then, is this the Mike Harding one? I can't remember the name of this one. Something herring, maybe. If I remember, I'll let you know, and you could I'll leave a comment or something with it. But this one can fit a lot more paint in it, but it's really light. So I won't use this on a windy day, but it has 4 wells, which I love, like big ones I can mix in. And
that palette does have large wells. Nice.
Yeah, there's a name. Herring product. So something herring. HERRING. And they have different sizes as well. You can even get ones that fit like full pans. And
cool.
I can get just a wider variety of colors in that one. But I say that's it because that's a lot. But all technically, you just need a sketchbook or paper and a pencil or a pen. And then from there, you can go wild. Like the world of
Mm,
art supplies and plein air supplies is endless. So I think it's more important to start with what you need and what you want to use as an artist and grow as an artist and slowly build your collection. It's taken me 6 or 7 years to collect all the things I like, and I always try different things before I buy a few of them. But if I find something I love, I buy a few of them because
mhm.
either I'll break it or I'll lose it. And when I'm traveling a lot and always outside, I just things go missing really easily,
Oh, absolutely.
unfortunately.
And I just wanted to mention if anyone's listening to the audio version of this in their podcast player and wants to see the different palettes that
Mm.
Sarah mentioned, just come over to the YouTube channel and you can look at the all of the different palettes in the bags and stuff because she holds it up during while she's talking about them. So that's a
Yeah,
really
sorry
nice
about that.
resource. Oh no, no
um,
problem, no problem.
I have like a little page on my Fearless Brush blog that is all my favorite art supplies, and I update it regularly. So because I get endless questions about that, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you do too. It's just like all of the things I've showed you now are probably on there. This is one of my
Great.
favorite things. This water dish, it has two sides to it, and it's
Oh,
kind of
cute.
spill proof. So you can see it's like angled on the lid. So if it tips over, it doesn't immediately spill everywhere. So it's just another
Oh yeah.
level of if you're clumsy like me, it's another level of protection.
Hmm.
Plus, the Velcro really helps. Or you could even do like magnets if you use a metal palette or a easel of some kind. I think that could
Yeah,
work.
I think with like the portable painter too, if you were to use the water buckets, but you didn't want the portable painter standing on the water buckets, you
Hmm.
could clip them together with a binder clip and put a little Velcro or magnet on the
Yeah.
bottom to stick
Oh,
it to
yeah,
whatever
definitely.
sort of
I've done all
setup
sorts
you
of
have.
funky setups Velcro, magnets, clips, rubber bands, like everything. And
Hmm.
I've thought about making one, like, how James Gurney has his famous design for a
Hmm.
Gertie easel kind of thing. I forgot the official name of it, but I really want to do that someday, especially with the diffuser. I think that's brilliant. Um, I just
Yeah.
since I already have stuff, I'm like, I'll do that someday, and I just still haven't. But if you have any tools at home or know someone with tools, that would be a great way to go because you can customize it exactly how you want it for your supplies and sizes you like to work in. Um, you can be so creative with it, like magnets
Mhm.
and clips and all the things you need, shelves, I don't know, drawers, make it like really
Oh,
cool.
absolutely. There's a easel that I've seen. I think it's called the Stabilo easel,
Mm,
and it almost looks like a drawing board with two little legs under it, but it's just a flat piece of wood, and you slide it in your sketchbook, and it kind of the wood goes on either side of the spine, and that's what holds it on. And there's like a
mm-hmm.
hole for your brushes, and there's a hole for a water cup, and magnets for your
Yeah.
palette, and for some of the links that generally will sit on a bench or on the ground and paint. That's a really nice option. And I think that's also
Yeah.
something you could DIY pretty easily if you wanted to, if you
Mhm.
had tools and whatnot.
I've seen that as well. I get a lot of people send that to me asking if I've tried it, and I have never,
Mm-hmm.
but it looks awesome and would be great for like traveling light and just sitting on benches somewhere. Maybe, if you're in more of an urban setting, especially, just
Mm-hmm.
have like your own little
Mm-hmm.
desk. That would be nice.
Yeah, I'd like to do more standing while I paint. I generally will take my portable painter and I'll put it over my leg and sit somewhere or set it on the ground and sit. But when I do oil or pastels, I have my French easel and then I can look out and I don't have to move my head so much. And
Mm.
it's probably a better way
Yeah.
to do it as far as like painting accurately. But I get
Mm.
kind of like,
Well,
do I want to bother grabbing an easel? I just kind of grab my little backpack that's got the stool built into it already with my portable painter and
yeah.
sketchbooks ready to go
I have
and
gone
take
through
that.
that struggle of over the years, like, what do I bring my easel? Do I bring my tripod? Oh, is it going to be so much effort to like set this up? But I never regret it. And it means I can stand or sit. I really like to stand when I paint outside now. It forces me to like paint a little quicker, I find.
Mhm.
And like you said, you can kind of position it so it's in front of your subject and you're not like looking down and looking up constantly. It's nice in that sense.
Mhm.
So I never regret it. I try to just do it. I have a very lightweight tripod now. I'm also a photographer, so that was like an excuse. I
Oh yeah.
upgraded my tripod. It's like a carbon fiber, super lightweight, as light as I can get it, afford it anyway.
Hmm.
And the combination's really good. It's not too bad. But I think it's worth it if you could take like a little bit extra effort. And although I would probably never use a French easel because that seems like way too cumbersome, and a lot of them that I've seen are so big and bulky and like take ages to set up
Yeah.
and take down. So, but some people love it, and that's like a nice stable thing if you're going to be out there
Mhm.
painting for a while. It maybe that's like perfect for you, especially if you're working bigger. I don't really
Yeah, I
work
think it's
that
great if
big
you're driving
outside.
to your location. Like
Hmm.
if you don't have to hike
Oh
in,
yeah,
if you're driving,
that would be
it's
so
good.
convenient.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband got me this thing. It was from Jerry's Artorama, and I'm thinking it was called like the
Hmm.
Art Comber. And it was this bag
Oh.
with a seat built into it with wheels, and it's designed to hold a French easel. But my French easel, like the hardware on it, like the parts that stick out that connect the legs, are just like a little bit too wide to fit in there. So I'm thinking
Oh
about
no.
taking it apart and trying to build out the gussets on the side a little bit bigger so I can use it. Because right now it's just kind of like it's just a big open space. It's meant for a French easel.
Hmm.
If I just throw stuff in it, it'll be just a nightmare because I'll have so much junk. If I tend to grow to the
Yeah.
space, I don't carry a purse because if I carry a purse, I bring too much junk. So I bring a wallet, my phone, and that's it when I'm going
Yeah.
anywhere. So it needs to be a little compact, but that
Yeah.
was the idea with that was that I could hike a ways and not have to,
Hmm.
if it's someplace I can't drive to, and then be able to
Right.
set up the French easel because I
Yeah.
like it. I prefer the French easel to a pochade box because I like that I don't have to hook an easel to it and it
Yeah,
just
no,
feels
that
more
is nice.
stable.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it
definitely.
definitely is heavy and cumbersome and I don't
Yeah.
bring it out very
They all
often
kind
because of
of
that.
yeah, they all kind of have their own purpose and will suit different styles and different needs. So maybe it's just about like trying it a few times and finding
Mhm.
what I mean. That's how I found all my favorite supplies, trying lots of different things in different settings. I think, did you just say the thing you mentioned, did it have wheels on it, like to
Yeah.
drag it? Okay. So it was like a
Yeah,
seat.
yeah, it had like almost like a shopping trolley, kind of like
Yeah. Okay, I
yeah, like
have one of
the
those.
little yeah, like the shopping carts. Like if you need to take
Yeah.
a bus to the grocery store, you live near the grocery store and you'd walk to the grocery store or something
Yes,
like that. We're
yes.
out in the country, so we have to drive everywhere. But yeah, it's very similar to that. It's like a canvas material, and when you
Mm.
open it up, the seat like pops out, and you could actually sit and set your easel up so you could sit at it if you wanted to. But I
Yeah.
loved that there would be enough room for like a roll of paper towels, and you play your
Hmm.
French easel. And the thing I also love about my French easel is that I have a separate box that holds my soft pastels. So I can like switch out oil paints or soft pastels just by putting a different drawer in the box, which is also handy.
That's really
But
cool.
that's pretty much all I
Yeah.
use it for, those two mediums.
Gosh, I can't imagine doing something like soft pastels outside because don't you need all of your colors? Or at
I
least it's
use
ideal.
Not really. I have plenty. I use a half stick set, and there's this brand, and
Mm.
it's not very expensive, but I found it worked really well because it's kind of middle of the road. It's not too hard, not too soft, and the pastels almost have a little bit of a waxy feeling to them. And it's the Soho brand by Jerry's Artorama, and I
Hmm.
bought the set of
Okay.
120, and it was on sale for like $50. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try
Wow.
this. I've been curious about these. It was like half off and it was like a super sale. So, I mean, their list price was like $300 or something, which I never believe the list prices, but I'm like, $50, I'll give
Yeah.
it a try. And that set is it's so well balanced. And I just have like a handful of like new pastels I throw in there for details. And I have a
Hmm.
little baggie with some like wet wipes in it to wipe my fingers off, and
Oh,
like a
good
little roll of
idea.
tape. And I bring my UART sanded paper because I find that's just it grabs the pastels. I don't need fixative, and um, I tape the pastel paper to the little like easel, not easel, a palette piece that's in the French
Hmm.
easel, and I lock that into the mast part, and
Hmm.
I'll just stand and paint. And it's very easy to paint that way. And
Okay.
it's since the pastels are in the middle, they're soft enough that I can get my highlights. They're hard enough that they don't just crumble up and fall everywhere. And that's working really well for me. And I saved
That's good.
the inserts from another set of pastels I have. I think it's a set of 120. So I just put those little foam inserts in my extra box, and I can just put all my little pastels in there so they don't get broken. And I mean, it's really great, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
I
plenty of
just
variety.
That's good. I guess I was just picturing like how pastel artists often have the huge spectrum of colors, and like, how do you take that outside? And I don't
Hmm.
understand how to blend with those, so I guess if you get it, you get it. To me, I thought you had to have like every different shade and tone, and um yeah, I don't know, I guess
Yeah,
I'm just like a newbie with that.
yeah, it's it's fun. I've always enjoyed pastels. I think you do to keep the freshness in a work. You don't want to overblend too much because then everything can get very homogeneous. But
Mm,
120 colors is still quite a bit, and you can overlap
yeah.
like a lighter color over a dark color and get them to blend, or even just get in there with your
Mm,
finger and blend it a bit if you need to.
yeah.
As long as you're putting enough pure strokes in and not blending those pure strokes, so you have that vitality in the work.
Mm,
I think 120 colors um, is good for a traveling situation. Now I have all these
hmm.
drawers full of pastels behind me.
Yeah.
So, I'm not really a spokesperson for minimal supplies, but when I'm
Yeah.
traveling, I don't like to carry too much, and that works out pretty well. But it just
So
goes to
do
show you
you,
everybody likes different things.
yeah.
What's that?
Do you often paint outside or draw outside when you travel? Is that like part of your experience traveling?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. I don't travel a ton, but yeah, I keep it super light for traveling though. Like I have one of those
Hmm.
fanny packs and I have the long skinny handbook and company journal, which I think it's like 3 inches
Mm,
by 8 inches.
yeah.
And I just finished up the Stillman and Bird 3.5 by 5. That's what I used to have in there.
Yeah.
And then I have like the Viva color sheets or just a little teeny tiny little magnet palette in
Hmm.
there and a couple water brushes and a pencil and a Derwent fine liner. It's like a .08, so I can use it on the side for fine lines, but the watercolor
Mm,
paper doesn't completely chew it up. And a little roll of washi tape and an eraser and a paper towel. And that's what I'll do if
yeah.
I'm taking a day trip or
Yeah.
just,
It's so easy, just
yeah, going
like
on a
fits
plane or
in your bag,
something.
or
Yeah.
your almost sounds like it could fit in your pocket depending what you're wearing. But I
Oh,
think that's
yeah.
the best when you're traveling.
Yeah, we went on a whale watch a couple of years ago, and sadly there were no whales. But we did the whale and puffin watch combination, so we saw tons of puffins. And I had my little three
Oh.
and a half inch by 5 inch Stillman and Burn, and I had the small portable painter, the micro, and I had four colors in there. I think I had ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, cadmium yellow, and quinacridone magenta, and I
Ooh,
just did
nice.
little and a pen, and I just sketched on the boat to
Yeah.
take my mind off of how freezing cold it is on the Atlantic Ocean
Oh yeah.
in
Yeah.
June or whenever we went. It was so cold, and there were no whales to be seen.
Oh, figures. That's how it would be if I
Yep,
went to.
yep. The whales are finicky. You
There.
can never guarantee a whale. Are there any other gadgets, some plein air gadgets or setups that you'd like to try this year that you haven't yet?
um, I think no, I have so many, and I feel like I'm in this place where I want to narrow down to a few primary palettes or even one or two, and just like really get intimately familiar with it and the colors that I have in them. I just recently changed the colors in my gouache palette, which don't know where I said it. But I changed them, and for some reason, even if I only change like three colors, it takes me months to get used to it. So it's kind of why I stick with one set of colors for a while. And I think also with the added challenge of painting outside, you have to kind of work quickly. Usually the light's changing, and so making those quick decisions. If I don't know my colors very intimately, I kind of panic and I don't know how to mix that
Mhm.
color. So I'm making it easy on myself this time. Instead of trying new things, I'm sticking with things that are familiar, except maybe the color combinations are new. So, oh, here it is. Yeah, just you know, a few. I added a couple custom pans on the side, which just have two white and then two like beigey tones. But otherwise, it's pretty similar to my other palettes I've used over the years, except I added some different greens and a purple. So I'm excited to get into that. And also the challenge of working with dried gouache, uh, and still making it like opaque and getting the effects that I want on the toned paper. I've been really enjoying that, as opposed to like the wet palettes like this one. I don't have any gouache in this one right now, but the with like the little
Mhm.
grid, a lot of people use these for watercoloring gouache, and that was a whole different experience. That's what I used the last couple years, and or the year before that. And yeah, it's a totally different experience when you're painting with like thick, goopy, wet gouache, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. That's what I do in the studio. But outside, it just adds like this, even though this is much easier than painting on a big palette, it still adds another level of like pressure, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
to set it all up and like use all my beautiful colors. And with the dried gouache palette, it feels a lot more relaxed and reminds me more of watercolor. Just yeah, I don't know. I want to get really into it, really used to it, really into it because when I travel next year abroad, I want to bring that and be like super comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with it and not, be able to paint things I like. Like seeing really pretty buildings.
Yeah. Do you spray the palette before you start using it, or is it pretty easy to get the paint
Oh yeah,
going from the dry format?
yeah, the dried. So pour the gouache in here and I let it dry for probably 5 days before I take it outside so that it's not gonna spill out. Some of the colors dry fast, some dry really slow. So now I can just like turn it upside down whenever. And so what I'll do usually is I'll spray it, then I'll set up all my materials, then I'll spray it again, and it just like soaks in. And I want that
Mm-hmm.
top layer at least to be like really usable. But I guess because the gouache itself is just high quality, it doesn't like ever get rock hard and like impossible to
Mm-hmm.
re-wet, especially when I use it very, very often, like I will be in April. um,
Mm-hmm.
so I will probably top all these colors up, let them dry, and then like go into April with kind of like a good consistency in there. As long as they're not runny, that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going for. But you have to kind of do it ahead of time.
Do you add any medium to them at all to keep them softer, or
No,
just
I
as
did
is?
experiment a little with the blending medium in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and it for the dried gouache palette, it just kept it too wet for too long, and I was just like
Mm-hmm.
waiting and waiting and waiting, so it wasn't running out of my palette when I tilted it, and that
Mm-hmm.
bugged me, so I just stopped doing that. And then, but with a wet palette, I do like that because it's already wet anyway. Doesn't matter if it's
Mm-hmm.
gooey, and if I throw this in my bag, it's not going to spill. And that stuff is nice when you're painting outside and it's windy or the sun is beating down on it, and it just keeps it like a
Mm-hmm.
little bit usable a little bit longer, but only like a couple drops. So it's the Winsor Newton watercolor blending medium. And you just
Mm-hmm.
put like one or two drops in each color or put it in your water. I don't know how much you'd have to use, depends on the water. And then you
Yeah.
like just when you're painting with your water and dipping it in, it's kind of adding to the mixes that you're using.
Yep.
Otherwise, no, I don't add anything. I try to keep it simple.
Yeah. How often do you need to refill? After every two painting sessions or every five painting sessions?
um, Most of this is going to last me the whole month, probably.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The white will run out within a few days. The yellow sometimes does as well, and a lot of times the blue, the ultramarine or whatever main blue that
Mm-hmm.
I'm using, like my special blue, my teals and stuff, the turquoise won't because it's so powerful. Like you only need a tiny touch of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
But greens may run out. The funny thing is I have 3 greens on here, but I tend to mix green on the go just because that's what I'm used to from working with a limited
Mm-hmm.
palette. So I'm really trying to like get myself to use the greens that are in here this time. So if those run out, then I'm on a good track with that.
Oh,
But yeah,
nice.
maybe
That must
like
be
once a week
very,
I'll just top up the colors.
yeah, that's a very a good way to conserve your paint then, because you probably
Mhm.
use that much paint just going out to paint from fresh gouache, don't you think?
I think I use way more gouache when I paint fresh gouache, like
Yeah.
from the tube, like I just dig into it more and I layer more and it's just there to use.
Mm-hmm.
And with a dried gouache palette, yes, it's there to use, but it's I don't know, I work a little bit thinner and I like build up my layers. So the first
Mm-hmm.
couple layers are diluted and then the top layer is like where I'll go like full opacity, maybe the top two
Mm-hmm.
layers or something. And like I don't know. I was trying to find an example in here of a when I used a dried palette, but um, it's like even like this is dried. This is from my dried palette. You can
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the quality is not great, but
It'll
hopefully you
be
can
clear
see
when
that
it's
it's
all uploaded.
okay.
Yep.
Hopefully you can see that it is quite opaque. Even the white is like
Uh-huh.
popping off the page, and if you
Yeah.
dilute it, yeah, you're gonna see the paper through a little bit, but it's not like you can get it to be like really bright and opaque. Um, so yeah, I guess you're right. It is a good way to conserve a lot of paint. And that layering idea, like working a little thinner and building up, building up, building up, I think that comes from like my watercolor background. So it's way more natural to
Mhm.
me to do that. And I think the dried gouache palette is like the perfect middle ground for me, working kind of thick with gouache and nice and thin and with watercolor.
Do you like to paint that way when you're in your studio, or do you go for the wet paint when you're at home?
I I definitely use wet paint more often at home, and I like to put it on my slightly bigger palette and like spread out a little bit. But I do find that like I mimic what I do outside, especially if I paint outside for like 10 days in a row and then I go inside, I kind of mimic what I was doing. I paint small, and I use
Mhm.
a small amount on my palette and I don't use as much gouache. But if I'm painting inside for a month or something and then I go outside, I'm like really missing my wet gouache and my big mixing
Mhm.
space. So it's an adjustment I have to do each time. And I don't know, I guess if I did each one like every other day, it would be a nice balance. But I don't
Mhm.
know. I just have like phases. But now my plein air phase is starting, so that's gonna be the thing.
Well, you mentioned having to work smaller when you're outside as you have a limited mixing palette. Do you have any other obstacles when you're painting outside? Maybe things that you could mention that could help people from having those same things trip them up? Any other
There's
obstacles to plan for?
no, it's super easy. Nothing ever happened. Like it never rains. It's never windy. There's no one ever standing over your shoulder saying, "What's that?" No, it's there's so many challenges, but I look at it more from like a mindset of I want to be outside anyway, and I want to be in this beautiful place or just going for a walk. And I'm an artist, and I'm always interested in what I see. So why not just bring my supplies and paint it? And that kind of takes the pressure off. And then I know from experience that the sun is going to change or go behind a cloud or wind is going to come, rain might even come. So I'm ready at all times to just like pack up and leave. I'm not
Mhm.
there to paint a masterpiece. I'm using it as notes to inform what I do in the studio. So the challenges that happen outside, it's just like, whatever. Like it rained, who cares? Move on,
Mhm.
do it again next time. And I try not to get down. I do get down on myself sometimes when I don't do a good job, or like my poor husband, I'll come home all the time from a session and he's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, oh, I'm never painting again. It was terrible. This is the worst painting in the world. And then I get over it in like a few hours. So it is hard in the moment when you do feel like you mess up or the weather is not in your favor and you don't do something you love. But I still find like every single painting I do outside is so incredibly valuable and teaches me something. So I try to look at it from that side of it. Like I'm out there, I'm in nature. It's the best. I love being in nature. I love being immersed in nature. So I try to find a quiet spot and just like be more present, not like, oh, I have to make a perfect painting. And then knowing when I get home and I kind of distill everything I've learned and look at my painting, I can draw from those lessons and apply that to the next thing. So that's kind of my or I try to stick with that mindset when I'm out there. It can be tricky, yes, but it will get windy and it will rain and the sun will change and there's going to be someone walking around. Headphones. I do recommend wearing headphones if you don't like people like looking at your work
Mhm.
or talking to you. Because if I have these on, especially, or even my little earbuds, and someone is nearby, they usually don't interrupt because it's like, oh, they're listening to something. You don't even have to be listening to anything. You could just like do it as like a way. If you're in some urban setting and you don't want anyone to talk to you, just try headphones. It does kind of make people not come up to you as much. And if you like talking to people, then just make eye contact and have fun talking to them because a lot of times people like sit and just watch and they won't really say anything. So you're just like, oh my God, what are they like? What are they doing? What are they thinking? And I've only had like one person who was like slightly rude out of the hundreds of times I've like been near someone outside while I'm painting. So I think that fear is a little bit in our heads, like someone's going to
Mhm.
judge us or I don't know what a lot of people are thinking they'll say, but it's not as bad as you think usually.
Mhm.
Maybe I
I'm
think
easily
the
startled. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's not nice when they still when they like sneak up on you.
Yeah,
You're just like in your zone, and then they're like, "Ooh, nice cloud" or whatever. You're like, "Oh,
yeah,
oh, that's happened many times." I forgot what I
yeah.
was gonna say.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
I
no,
didn't.
it's okay. I think I was just gonna mention
So,
like the time that the person was like not the nicest. They were just saying that their cousin, it was something like their cousin is an artist, and they're like, but keep it up, you'll get there someday, or something like that. It was like, it kind of felt like it came from a
wow,
place of like, good job, you're doing it, and I was just like, but it was
I
probably
am
because
an
I was like
artist.
it could have been at the very beginning of the painting, when it looks like crap, and you're you're like, why is now the time when everyone's coming up and seeing it? But
Yeah,
I just have brushed it off. Like, who cares? They don't know me. They don't know my life. They don't know what I'm doing. So whatever.
yeah. You'll never see them again,
But
but they might see you when
usually,
they turn on YouTube.
maybe, usually they're so nice and they're just curious and they're like, really, they've never seen an artist in person, or they kind of are into art. And, you never know if you're changing someone's life when you're out there painting. I've had people
Mhm.
like contact if I meet them outside and then they message me a year later, even say, remember the time we were in Elgin and I saw you? Well, now I tried painting outside. And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, you're not going to change everyone's life, but if it happens,
Right.
it's kind of fun.
Oh, absolutely. Um, do you ever go with like groups of people? Do you have like
Mm.
plein air groups in your area?
I go. I have a monthly meetup group called the Moray Firth Sketchers. I live in Murray County, which is like this kind of coastal area in Northeast Scotland. And this woman I met at it was like a workshop weekend a couple of years ago. We both signed up for it and went, and we were like the two youngest people there. And we kind of just hit it off because we were both doing like watercolory type things and stuck together the whole weekend. And we're like, this is fun. Should we maybe like try to meet up next month too? And not in like a class setting or like a workshop setting. It wasn't really a class, but there was like a guy there who was critiquing our work at the end of the week, or at the end of the weekend after we painted outside for 2 days. Anyways, so Ruth and I were like, yeah, let's meet up next month. And then it just kept snowballing and snowballing. And then we're like, let's start a Facebook group just so other people can find us if they want. And started slowly growing. And now we have anywhere from like two or even one, mostly two, to 6 or 7 or 8 people. Like, it just varies a lot each month. So it's still small, but it's just chill, meet up, enjoy the outdoors, paint together. Everyone's doing their own thing. Like, people from all walks of life, all different ages, all different mediums, all different experience levels. And I just like the companionship of it, the friend, the friendly banter and talking about supplies, and just kind of getting out of the studio with no expectation except to enjoy being outside with another enthusiastic artist. And I go outside on my own all the time, which I love, but I really look forward to those days. And it's usually once a month, sometimes twice a month. Depends.
That's awesome. I think having that accountability partner too, just knowing that other people are going to show up makes you less likely to be like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like it, or it's misty out,
Hmm.
or, whatever.
Yeah, there
You'll
definitely have
show
been
up
days
because you know other people are coming. Go
days
ahead.
we oh, sorry. It's hard when it's like slightly delayed.
Hmm.
The days where it's like we were going to meet up on Friday, but then it ends up being kind of and I wouldn't go out if it was just me. But since I am
Hmm.
going out with them, like, okay. And I go, and then we see like dolphins in the bay, or we see seals in the river.
Nice.
And, we get ice cream and we chat about something, or someone new shows up. Like, actually, one time another artist showed up that we hadn't met before. And she was the artist whose work was hanging in a cafe that I absolutely loved. And so I was like, noticing her
Oh,
sketchbook, I was
cool.
like, that looks so much like an artist I saw in a cafe, and got to talking, and I was like, it's you. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, you just never know. And yeah, like you said, the accountability is good to have once in a while.
I bet that made her day. Like, oh my word,
Maybe.
recognized out in the
I
world for
think
my art. Yeah, I bet that was
I think
awesome
she
for
was
her.
just surprised that someone like recognized it from her sketch that she was doing. And yeah, it was fun. So I think if you don't have anyone to meet up with, there's no harm in just like putting it out there in a local. I know, like, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook, but that's the one thing I like it for is the groups.
Mhm.
And like, I use Facebook Marketplace all the time to sell things and buy things used. And there's groups for aurora chasing, which I've joined. And now, like, I'm super into that. And the group thing is just pretty incredible still. So you could even just go on to any of the local groups and just mention, like, does anyone else like to paint? Do you want to try painting outside once a month or whatever, and see how it goes? Because yeah, it's like there's no harm in just asking, I guess. And if it's something you're
Mhm.
really into and think that it would be good for you, you got to try it. And I think you should at least try
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what tips would you have for beginners going out their first time plein air painting?
Paint something small. Like if you're gonna, you're out there looking at this beautiful vast landscape or in a forest, which is all so complex. Like I would say paint, like pick one thing, maybe a tree or a flower or a whatever, a car, a building, and just focus on that, either drawing it or painting it, but do it like in a loose way so you're not putting too much pressure on yourself, just to get started before you try painting a full landscape altogether. Like I brought down my first ever plein air sketchbook, and I don't know if this is going to show up
Oh,
on screen,
wow.
but when I first
It will.
started,
It will. Yeah.
okay, I had
Yeah.
no clue how to layer watercolor. I started doing watercolor outside when it was like 2015, 16, and I just loved being outside, and I saw other artists doing it online, and I was like, I should try it. So I went to the Botanic Gardens, and I was like, how on earth do you like layer? Didn't have a clue. So I just started painting single things and like really,
Oh,
really
so
loose,
pretty.
really, really tiny. And kind of with a little ink here and there because I was a little bit more comfortable drawing than I was painting. And like this was the first time I tried painting a forest type scene. It was actually in one of those greenhouse things. So there's like tons of trees and leaves and plants everywhere. So it's like tropical. And I
Mm.
had no idea how to add a background. So all I did was add or paint just like a single tree with some sort of things happening around it. And every single time I went, I tried to get like more and more complex and like add one more color or one more layer or one more tree branch, anything, just little by little. It like I have dozens of these little sketchbooks because of that like step by step process I was taking. And it's kind of addictive, I find. Once you figure one thing out, you're like, ooh, now what if I do this? And you just, I don't know, for me anyway, that's like that
Mhm.
curiosity is what kept me excited. And I like look back, at the time I was like, these are absolute crap. Like I could never do this for a living. I can't sell anything ever. And I wasn't even thinking about that at the time, but I just was like, nah, I'll just do it for fun. And I mean, now it is my job, but it was a long process. Like it's not going to happen straight away. So even if you're really good at art in the studio, it's a very different experience outside because you have to visually flatten what you see and you have to make 1,000 choices about light and color and like what to do rather than copying a reference, which is its own challenge. Don't get me wrong. So it is going to be a different experience and maybe you'll feel like a fish out of water. I definitely did when I started because at that time I could kind of paint with like acrylics on a canvas and draw and like do other things. But when I went outside, I was just like, whoa, this is so different and so many challenges I didn't expect. So that's my biggest thing is start small, really simple, like tiny things, little objects, just to get the feel for it before you layer big landscapes or like trying to incorporate too much. Because I think you can try it obviously, but like it might be discouraging if it's not going as well as you thought it would, especially if you are comfortable in the studio, that it doesn't always translate right away. But it eventually you'll get there. Little like fill a bunch of sketchbooks just for fun
Yeah.
and like little by little you'll get there.
How long ago was that first sketchbook that you started?
That was June 2016. So that was the first plein air sketchbook. Before that, like I
Mhm.
said, I was doing like stuff inside, and um, I could paint like somewhat realistically if I wanted to focus on something, but I was still
Mhm.
using like really wild colors all the time. And yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this journey into plein air was definitely like I tried it and I was completely hooked. Like this, I
Mhm.
filled the sketchbook really fast, and then the next one, and then the next one, and it just kept going. To the botanic gardens and the parks. And I was living in Denver at the time, so it was like urban setting. I would just go
Mhm.
anywhere that looked kind of felt more natural, like a landscapey thing. And also, if I could go to the mountains, but um, yeah, I was never drawn to like the urban setting as much because I was more
Mhm.
into just quiet nature, being immersed in nature. And sorry, I'm getting off topic now, but
No,
I
that's
guess that's
fine.
part of it. Like that's part of it for me is like a huge reason why I do it is because I just want to be out in nature. So having a good reason to do it, if it because it
Mhm.
is tricky, it's a little bit harder uh, to get used to. You have to have some level of passion for it. If you love being outside and your painting is kind of like doesn't go the way you want it to, at least you spent a nice time out there in nature.
Absolutely. I was visiting your Sketching Scotland website, and the paintings are so gorgeous. And I see you
Oh,
have a book
thanks.
now, Sketching Scotland Volume 1. I didn't know you had that book. How long has that been out?
Oh, I did a Kickstarter for that book years ago,
Oh
a
my
few years ago.
gosh.
I did two books at the same time. The first one was The Brush Mileage, which is more like my art
Mhm.
journey and how I went from, where I started to where I am now. And the Sketching Scotland was all of my plein air painting mostly, starting in
Mhm.
Denver, obviously, but then I moved to Scotland kind of right after that. And it was like from then until I guess when I published it was 2021, I think. So a few years of like my experience going from a total noob to what I was at that time. And it's I think of it more like a blog post, a blog in book format. Like I
Mhm.
write very candidly and I share tons of images. Like it's very image heavy, but I also have little
Mhm.
bits and pieces like a supply list and like things I like to use and little funny stories of stuff that has happened outside when I'm painting. um, so I like I don't I don't want to put too much pressure on it. And I self-published it, so I didn't have to like follow anyone's rules except my own. So Kickstarter was the best option for me, and that's one of the few things I sell on my web shop, my website, along with prints and stuff. And yeah, there's volume one so far, and I've been meaning to start volume two. Keep saying I'm going to do that. I have like the first page outlined, and that's it.
Mhm. Well, it seems like you have a lot of paintings to fill it up with so
I
far.
I do. I have so much more that could go into the next one that I did in the first one because I've painted a lot more since 2020, 2021, whenever it was, like way more. So I need to kind of decide on the direction I want it to take. Do I want it to be any form of educational aspect, or do I want it to just be like eye candy, or just like
Mhm.
I was thinking about somehow bridging the photography more with the art, like this was the location and this was the art and maybe some notes or like things. I don't know. I'm playing with different ideas still, and it's a really fun like side passion project for me. So as you know, passion projects take up a lot of time, and we have to
Mhm.
make time for it, which takes away time
Yep.
from other things that might pay the bills, and you know how that goes. So I just need to like do it, get my
Mm.
button gear and just start writing in and putting things together, throwing things into InDesign and like making something.
That's an
Otherwise it
excuse
won't
to use that
happen.
expensive easel that you just bought. That's that's lightweight.
Yeah. Yeah, my
Do,
supply, a lot of stuff has changed since the last time, so it could be
mm.
interesting.
I think so. I'd love to
Um,
see that evolution between where an artist started with certain materials and to see their artwork evolve and then see their palette evolve. And I find that
yeah,
very interesting. So I think there would be
yeah.
definitely a market for that.
Oh, yeah. It's gotten some good feedback as well. Like I just did it because I felt like putting it all together is like a. I
Mhm.
think at that time I was still streaming on Twitch, so it was like kind of requested by that community as well. And then I was starting to
Mhm.
get into YouTube more at that time, and Now my YouTube channel, I don't do Twitch anymore, but like my YouTube channel has grown a lot, and more people are like asking for something sort of like that. Like, where did you start? How did you get to this point? And it would be kind of nice to have like the next step done as that book. uh, yeah, because I can make a million videos, but no one's going to go back and watch all the videos. So even though my journey is like there on my YouTube channel from the very beginning, it's very few people go back and watch all of them. There are a few though.
Hmm.
I sometimes get comments on
Yeah.
old videos and they're like, I'm binge watching all your videos. And I'm like, what? Sorry, that's very cringy.
Not to them though, only to the
Yeah, I
creators is
know.
it cringy.
Yeah, we're the ones that are cringing.
Mm. Do you do anything professionally with your photography now other than your YouTube channel? Outside of what we
uh
see?
No, not no, I don't like sell it or yeah, I don't do anything besides I use it for reference photos, so I share it a lot on my Patreon. I
Hmm.
post it in books if I make the books. I post it on my blog. It's kind of like a supplemental thing that I use in all of different ways in my business.
Hmm.
Mommy websites and stuff, I guess. And yeah, I think it's just again, it's like a passion of mine. I did used to make a living being a wedding photographer, and I
Oh,
got so
wow.
burned out on it. Like I was like, I'm never doing photography again. But now I do something completely different with photography that it's completely a fun passion hobby. Like I don't want to muddy those waters with money and like
Yeah.
requests and thing like, I want it to be my thing because I have very few of those
Hmm.
nowadays. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how your passions can kind of leach into your main business, like your plein air painting back to your YouTube channel. And um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's the
I find that's
hardest,
hard
I
to find,
think.
hard to have a hobby.
It is. I mean, obviously, we chose this path and we're choosing it and we do
Mhm.
it because we love it. But it is one of those tricky things where, every single time I go out and paint, I'm like, should I be recording this? And like, should it be a thing? And
Yeah.
I have to try to remember that I really need that time alone out in nature observing to become a better artist, to become
Hmm.
to reach my art goals. So as much as I enjoy making videos and sharing the process, I should just keep some of it to myself to learn from, and then others can be shared. And I think that goes
Yeah,
along with like any career, really. Like you do have to do your own learning in your own private headspace.
mhm. I rarely film when I'm plein air painting. I might take a few photos of maybe a quick little clip of video, but I've only filmed my plein air painting a couple times, and it's been
Mm,
when I've had somebody with me, and I specifically went out to film a tutorial because I just enjoy it too much. And I don't think my plein air
yeah.
paintings are as good as my in studio paintings, but I get so much rich information from going out
Yeah.
there. And plus, it's kind of social time because I've got a friend who gets Fridays off in the summer, and we'll go and plein air paint either with the plein air painters of Maine or just on our own.
Cool.
And it's nice just to have that separation, that kind of way to kind of blow off steam and just relax and enjoy and create
Yeah.
without worrying if my camera's running or if I
Oh my gosh,
forgot a
yeah. If it's in
battery or
focus
whatever.
or
Oh
yeah, if the
yeah,
mic
that
working.
2 hours was out of focus. Darn.
Oh, I've had that so many times. And now I have my husband helping me do some of the videos, but it's still a lot of times just me like painting and like holding my phone like this. And
Hmm.
then like noticing, oh, the phone is facing that way. And so, yeah,
It's
it's
hard to
a
see in the sun. You
struggle.
can't see your screen
I,
because the
I
sun is
know,
so
I know.
bright.
Yeah. I've
Oh,
had
speaking of
so many
other
different setups.
difficult. Yep, yep. Speaking of other difficult things, getting outside every day is difficult for a lot of people, myself included, for various reasons, such as bad weather, the ability to get around, and other time commitments. Do you have any
Hmm.
resources that you can share for people to use if they struggle to get outside so they can keep up the momentum and keep painting landscapes when they can't get outside?
Hmm. I mean, joining an art challenge like the Plein Air Pearl Challenge, or whatever it is, Inktober, is a good community site. Like you have the community encouragement of that, like sharing it, even if it's not every day, but even once a week. And seeing what other people are doing always encourages me and kind of like helps me keep that momentum going. I also have my Discord community, which is really, really helpful because we post whatever we're there's people right now doing the 100-day challenge in there, and they post
Mhm.
almost every day. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is
Wow.
so inspiring and like really gets me excited. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. Not the 100-day challenge. I'm not doing that, but any other challenge. And so any kind of community aspect I think can help. But again, I think it's important to do it for your own reasons and your own goals. So like committing to a specific goal. Like for me, I want to paint the second week where I start choosing a focus next month, flowers. Like I have very specific goals with that. So I'm going to go hunt
Mhm.
down flowers and just paint as many as I can. And I may not make anything nice within a single session, but over the course of the week, I want to like learn quite a bit. So maybe thinking about it more in like bigger phases, bigger chunks of time, or a bit different like learning goals, and chipping away at it day by day. You can set up a still life somewhere in your house or studio, whatever, and just leave it there all week. And whenever you have a chance, go work on it. Um,
Mhm.
Painting from reference obviously is hugely important because you can't always be outside or looking at something interesting. So reference can be a great tool, and you can, pick your favorite vacation photos or have your friends send you their favorite place in the world and like paint it. You kind of have that motivation of, "Oh, they really like this place. Let me see, if I can put my artistic spin on it and, send them a postcard with the art on it or something." Yeah,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. Little ways like that you can kind of motivate yourself, but ultimately it comes down to you as an artist, like making the decision, I want to grow in this thing, and
Mhm.
and following it and committing to it, even if it is 5 minutes a day. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of have to make time for something you're committed to, whether it's learning a language or an instrument or anything you want to do,
Mhm.
anything you want to get better at. So yeah, it is a
Absolutely.
commitment to yourself.
I saw this really neat tool on the plein air. I think it's the Warrior Painters website. I think it's
Yeah.
pleinairapril.com, or maybe it's plainapril.com. If you
Warrior
search the
painters,
plain, it's warriorpainters.com.
warrior.
They have Yeah, they have a if you Google Warrior Painters or Plain April, you'll find it. But they have
Mhm.
this random landscape generator. And what it is, basically you hit the button
Oh,
on their website and it will bring up, and they teamed up with Unsplash to create this. So all the photos that they're using are
oh,
above board. They're fine for you to use. If you create a masterpiece, you've got, you can use it for whatever you want. You could print a sticker or note cards or whatever. Um,
wow.
but you hit the button and it just gives you a random landscape. And I
Oh,
actually, to warm up lately, I gridded out a sketchbook page,
ooh, I
and they're
like
just 2 inch
that.
by 2 inch grids. And I'll,
Yeah,
I'll hit the button on that website and I just do whatever it is.
that's
And
such a
it's
good
fun,
idea. It's better than like
you take,
a word prompt, like, well, not better, but like, it's a different
yes.
idea. Visual is
And
very
it's like,
stimulating.
yeah. And it's like, you don't have to decide. It takes out that first decision that like can hang us up. Like, well, what do we paint? How
Yep.
big do we paint
Oh
it?
my
What do we paint
gosh.
it in? I'm going
Every
to paint it
day.
here in one of these squares, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I find
Yeah.
that by the time I've got that under my belt, then I feel creative. I feel like all these other possibilities and ideas pop into my head. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's really nice because I don't know if you find this in your community, but in my community, I find that we've got a lot of folks that may be on bed rest, or they may
Hmm.
be unable to get out of their homes,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
they want to take part in a community like this, in a challenge like this, but they may have absolutely no way to get out
Hmm.
at all, or maybe they can
Yep.
get out once a week or something like that, and this will kind of keep that momentum going for
Yeah,
them. Um,
definitely.
and also like Google Earth,
It
if you've
I
ever
was
tried
about to
Google
say,
Maps or Google
one
Earth.
of my other things is I will just sometimes I'll even just like spin on the earth around and just plop a pin down and zoom in, and whatever is there I
Oh,
have to paint it.
nice.
I'll just like, you can
Oh,
look around
cool.
in 360 view because it's like something different. Like I don't know, if I
Yeah.
just want to be random, and
Hmm.
does give you a challenge. Like what if it's an alleyway? You gotta somehow make
Yeah.
that
A
interesting.
dumpster.
Yeah, James Gurney would paint it beautifully.
Oh my word, that man.
Yeah.
Bank is a snowbank, dirty snowbank. Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so gorgeous.
You can paint anything.
No, it is. It's good motivation like that. And I'll also use my Google photo album because all my phone photos upload automatically to Google Photos. So it goes back like
Oh,
to years and years and years. So I'll just like scroll up and down really fast and just stop. And whatever photos on the screen is what I'm painting. if
Oh,
it's like
nice.
a landscapey type thing. And so
Yeah.
it just keeps it kind of interesting. Like your generator or their generator is that's a
Yeah.
great idea if you don't know what to paint, because that again, that choice paralysis can just stop you from doing anything. And I've done that all the
Hmm.
like many, many times. If I have too many good choices, I'm like, oh, I can't decide. So I'll just like
Yeah.
go play Baldur's Gate 3 instead. Or, whatever. Go outside
Right.
in the garden.
Yeah, I like that it takes that decision away, and because I there's so many beautiful photographs on like Unsplash and Pixabay,
Hmm.
and you could just get lost in shopping photos basically and not do
Yeah,
anything. It's like when you watch Netflix or Hulu or YouTube in the evening, you can spend all your time just scrolling trying to decide what to watch, that you
I
never
know.
actually watch
And then
anything. So you can do
and
this.
then
Yeah.
just go watch your same movie watched 100 times.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
It's ridiculous.
yeah, it happens to everyone. And
Yeah.
I think there's, you'll find something that kind of gets you excited and motivated. And if you are inside, there's so many options. So I
Mhm.
think just work with what you have. It doesn't, even if you can't go outside to paint, actually, the warrior painters, a lot of them are digital artists, and they'll
Mhm.
either take their iPads outside or go in their garden, look out their window, or just work from a reference photo because their industry, like that's what they work in, that's their medium. So
Mhm.
they're not going to stop themselves from partaking just because of that. And I like that. You just find a way to make it work for your circumstance.
Mhm. What do you do if you miss a day on the challenge, you personally?
You jump into the ocean. No, you just forgive yourself and move on, and make a decision. I'm definitely doing it tomorrow, because trust me, I
Mhm.
get it. Like sometimes there is no time in a day to do anything, and you have 5 minutes to spare, and it's like painting is the last thing on your mind. So I think, you know, forgive yourself and move on. And like have good
Mhm.
intentions for the next day. You do have to make time, like you have to carve out time, like instead of doing this thing, you'll do this thing instead. So watch a little bit less TV, even if it's a half an hour, and do something in your sketchbook. Or yeah, you kind of have to work with, again, and work within your limitations.
Have you ever missed a day on when you set out to do one of these challenges?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
first year I tried, I missed a bunch of days. Every time I've ever tried Inktober, I've missed a lot of days. The last 2 years, last year, I think I did every day, except for one day when I was sick. So I did the two the next day. But
Mhm.
then, again, it's like life happens. So
Mhm.
I, if I miss one day, it's not like I'm unlearning everything I learned. So it's
Mhm.
still extremely valuable. And this coming year, it's way more flexible because, like, a lot of stuff's happening. Actually, one of the entire weeks of April, I am away on Sky hosting a friend and his mom. So I'm like being a host, and I have to,
Mhm.
I want to keep painting that week, like painting every day, at least a little bit, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to get done. But I'm okay with it, like, because I have goals throughout the whole month that I'm sticking to, and I'll just make the most of it.
I've had days for like World Watercolor Month where I've painted an extra painting one day. Like if I had one day where I have an extra lot of time, or if I'm out plein air painting, there was this one we went to a place in Brooklyn, Maine. It was like a harbor area, and I had a chance to do like three paintings that day. So I saved one of them to because like I knew that flowers was coming up, and I had painted all these flowers, and I had plans with a bunch of friends on the day that was coming up, and I didn't want to have the extra pressure to paint something for World Watercolor Month. So I'm like, I'm saving that, and I'm going to post it on Sunday, so I still could keep that daily thing. I get a little obsessed when I say I'm going to do a
Yeah.
challenge, and I will be up until like, midnight, getting that Inktober drawing done or whatever, just so I can post it. My husband thinks I'm insane, but
No, I
it's
get that.
it's
Like,
fun. Yeah.
if you're doing it like, if you're posting it on social media every day, that's a whole other side of
Mhm.
it. So yeah, I totally get that. I did take that pressure off of myself, especially this year, knowing that there's going to be a lot going on in April. So I'm focusing more on the weekly goal and making the weekly video, posting it towards the end of the week.
Mhm.
um yeah, so it's going to be more flexible for me this year.
Yeah. I find the posting well, it's the whole thing about getting together with friends and painting. It keeps you accountable. I find
Hmm.
when I say I'm going to do a challenge and I announce it, I feel like I need to post it every single day. It's like that's the
Oh,
accountability. Where
definitely.
if I wasn't posting it and nobody was going to know if I didn't do it, I'm like, I don't feel like doing that
Yeah.
today. But if I know, I've said it and I'm doing it, I'm posting it every day, then it really forces me. It gives me the motivation to get it done
Oh,
every day. Whether that's
definitely.
good or
Yeah.
bad, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I do it anyway.
Yeah, I did that last year. I posted daily reels, actually. I made a video every
Hmm.
day, which was so much, but like I was halfway through especially. I was like, I am not missing a day. I'm doing this. And I just
Hmm.
became obsessive about it. But I did learn a ton that month, not only about video
Hmm.
editing, but art. um
Yeah, it's like the
so
Fitbit for painters. It's like join a challenge and tell people you're going to post
yeah,
it every day, and then it's like
yeah,
it's like I painted, now I'm going to show it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like when
I
if you have like a Fitbit or something and you forgot to wear it and you've walked everywhere and there's no proof that you've walked you've done all these steps.
oh
It's so
no.
frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. They should invent something like that for artists, like a little thing or a plug-in for your Fitbit that's like, "Hey, have you
Yeah,
painted today? Hey, it's time to go
art
paint.
bit.
You don't have enough brush mileage."
Yep, there you go, $1 million idea right there. Patent pending. The art bit. I
Yeah.
have to call it, not a bit. Maybe
And
bit
then
is
like
trademarked. I don't know.
it pops up like a little landscape like from your Unsplash generator. It pops up like, "Ooh, paint this now."
Yes. Oh, that's a great idea. You should invent that. Somebody should.
uh I don't have time for that. Someone else do it. Send me like
That's a million dollar
1%.
idea. We want royalties.
Yeah.
We're
You heard it here
trademarking it right
first.
now, but we'll sell the trademark.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. So where should people follow you if they want to see what you're going to do during Plain April this year?
I will be posting on Instagram whenever I can. If not daily, like I'll do probably post stories quite a bit. I like stories a lot on Instagram and in my Discord community. And I'm gonna try again to do the weekly YouTube video recap thingy. And also maybe I'll send out one or two newsletters during the month. I feel like it would be better to send out a newsletter at the end that's like, this is everything I've done and what I've learned and things like that. So yeah, kind of everywhere, I guess. Sarah Burn
Oh,
Studio on
great.
all of the things.
Awesome. I will put all those links in the show notes so people can find you and also the Sketching Scotland website because I didn't see that the last time. I knew about your Fearless Brush blog and
Oh,
Sarah Burn Studio and the YouTube.
well,
And I'm like, what is
so
this? Is this new? And I'm like looking through the pictures. I'm like, oh, they're so pretty. And then I'm like, this
uh
book? Oh, how come she didn't tell
well,
me about this book? And it was,
no.
I didn't realize it was out so long ago.
I feel like I don't mention it as often because it's again my like side personal hobby thing. I've made videos about it now and then, but the actual Sketching Scotland thing, it's like a huge ongoing project for me. I want to walk or cycle around the entire coast of Scotland before I die. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a strict timeline, but I want to paint
Mm-hmm.
and sketch and take photos along the way to document it. So it'll be really interesting to see. I started 2 years ago or last year here where I live. And by the time I walk her all the way around or get all the way around, however that ends up, I will be much older and hopefully a better artist. So it'll be so interesting to see how my art has changed as well. That's kind of part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sketching Scotland books came first, or the volume one came first before that. And it's going to just kind of, I don't know how many volumes there will be over the years, but it'll it'll wrap it all up eventually into a
Mm-hmm.
nice little book. So yeah, it is
Yeah,
this it's
that's really cool.
I just have too many things going on, so I don't like telling someone everything because it's like overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many interesting facets to you, Sarah, and I appreciate you sharing them with us today. Is there anything
Well,
else you'd
thank
like
you
to
for
talk
inviting
about
me
before
again. This
we?
is so
Yeah,
oh. No, I was just going to say thanks.
it's
This
the
was
delay.
fun. Yeah, I really enjoy geeking out about art supplies and especially plein air. And yeah, are you going to do any outside next month?
I'm gonna try. It's still a little dodgy here in Maine,
Mm.
and I do have a bunch of projects I'm working on that are kind of taking up a lot of my time. I'm working on a new color pencil course
Mm.
for like mixed media art is kind of a looser approach to colored pencils than what you
Oh,
typically see.
cool.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm
Ooh.
excited about that. It's taking up a lot of time, and then once it launches, kind of responding to students' questions and things like that take up a lot of time.
Hmm.
But I think going with the plan of getting out when I can, maybe once or twice a week, and then using that random image generator once in a while
Yeah.
to, I think I'm going to do something every day. It might not be Instagram worthy, but I think
But
I'll do
you'll learn
something just because
something.
I do want to, yeah, I
Hmm.
want to
Oh,
level up and I want it to be much more I always have stuff in the car, but I want it to be much
mm,
more, I want to be much more quicker on the draw when if I see
hmm,
something out my window, pull over, grab out my sketchbook, even if
yeah.
I'm just sitting in the car and sketching it and then going
Yes.
on my
Car
way and
painting
planning
is a
some of that.
great way.
Yeah, planning some of that padded time in my day so everything's not so tight that I actually can pull over and draw if I want to. And
Yeah. No,
I'm
that's a
going to try to. I'm going to
great
try to do
idea.
something daily.
Yeah.
Did you have something else you
Definitely
wanted to
car
say?
painting. No, oh, I was gonna mention the Warrior Painters website. They actually are doing, I think it's the first year, I'm not sure. They have Warrior Art Camp as like their online art community tutorial thing.
Uh,
They're doing
Neat.
tutorials all this month or April. And it's like a
Hmm.
combination of digital and traditional. So you can sign up for just the digital, just the traditional, or everything. So they'll have like several demos by really amazing artists. I signed up for the traditional one because I'm always fascinated to see how many different ways people use gouache. And
Hmm.
Angela Sung just did her demo this past weekend to start early, and it was so cool. Like I learned so much just
Oh,
by watching her
nice.
use color. And they're all working in different industries, you know, you approaching color and subject in a different
Hmm.
way, which I find fascinating, very different than I look at things. So if you're interested in like kind of getting an educational side of it, that's a good maybe thing to check out. And you get like, you know, the package of all the demos depending which one you sign up for. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I'm not affiliated with them at all. They probably don't even know
Hmm.
exist, but I love
Yeah.
what they're doing. Like it's so motivating and inspiring to me.
It's good to know. How much was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I think the digital or the traditional package was like 60 to 90. I can't remember exactly, but you get several demos and they're live. I
Hmm.
couldn't make the live one because of time zone differences, but
Hmm.
they are all live and then you can watch the replay after whenever you want.
Oh, good.
And they also share all of their references and their, you know, notes and things. And it's just, yeah, it's a really good value, I think, for what they're offering.
Oh, nice. And is there a good community there to interact with, or is it just everyone on kind of on their
Um,
own?
from what no, it's there's a moderator kind of running the
Yeah.
demo. So the artist is able to
Hmm.
do their thing and the moderator was like monitoring
Okay.
chat. So chat, you can chat with them live and a lot of people were asking questions.
Oh,
I mean, I
wow.
wasn't there live, but I could see that like
Hmm.
a lot of people were interacting. So yeah, I think, and they have a pretty big community themselves on Instagram and elsewhere. So
Hmm.
yeah, lots of different types of artists all in one place. Pretty cool.
Very cool. Yeah, something to keep you inspired if you're having
Very
a down
inspired.
day
Yeah.
or you're just losing your oomph because man, you get halfway
Yeah.
through. I think that the first third of any challenge is the hardest because you haven't gone quite far enough that you feel like you've got a lot to lose if you just give up. But
Yeah.
your energy, that energy from the first couple of days is waning, and if
Hmm.
you can get over that hump, I think that you have a good chance of doing a full month challenge, and that's something that can definitely keep you inspired and motivated.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You have kept me inspired and motivated, and I just can't wait to get outside and paint now. And I'm sure a
Yay.
lot of the viewers here are sharing the same sentiment. I will put
Good.
I will put links to everywhere people can find you in the show notes on the podcast players or in the video description on YouTube. If you're listening to this in the podcast version and you have the audio only version, be sure to come over to YouTube if you want to see some of Sarah's work and if you want to see our smiling faces as we chat along for this hour and a half or so. I want to
Yeah.
wish everybody a happy Easter if you celebrate, since this is going up on Easter, and have a very happy plain April. Thank you, Sarah,
Yes.
for
Thank
being
you
with us
so
today.
much. Thank you. It was great.
And thanks, you guys, all for watching. And
Thanks,
as
everyone.
always, happy crafting. Bye.